be moving. Whipping the foreign, I'm cruising. The money I'm speaking it fluent. All of my
What's up, guys? TaylorMade here. I've noticed lately that a lot of producers are struggling with mixing. I get a lot of questions on how I do my mixes, so I just wanted to do a quick little tutorial on how I do a basic mix on my beats. So I'll start off with this beat here that I had made before, and I took all the effects off the mixer tracks and everything so you could hear what it sounds like before I mixed it. So here's a little clip. Now, as you can tell, it's real muddy. It's not mixed. It doesn't sound right. And so I'm gonna just take you step by step on how I do things, just to mix everything down and make it sound a lot better. So what I like to start out with is on my melody here, and I'm actually gonna solo the melody so that y'all can see this. Okay, it doesn't sound bad, right? Well, what I like to do is I'll put a Fruity Parametric EQ2. I'll make this bigger so y'all can see. And what I want to do is, you can tell, like in this area here, there's not a lot going on. So we want to take that out of the track. You want, like, even though there's nothing going, it seems like nothing's going on in these frequencies. There's some frequencies that are actually muddying up your mix. So what I'll do is end up bringing this down. Now you don't want to do too much because it'll take some of the sounds out of the mix that you want, and this is what it sounds like when you take too much out. So that's obviously not what you want. So we're gonna bring that down by somewhere around in here. And then I'm gonna take off some of the high-end frequencies as well. And what I'll do is actually right here on this dot, if you look at the top left, when I click and drag it down, it's going to create a steep 8. What that's going to do is going to create this real steep angle instead of the smooth curve you see on the left. So I'm just going to take out some of these frequencies, not a whole lot, because it'll change up the sound, and this is what it sounds like after this. Alright, the next thing I want to do is go to the track on your mixer where your melody is, and we're going to play that and see what decibel range it is over here on your master track. Right now it's sitting at a little around 8 or 9 decibels, or minus 8 or 9 decibels. And I like to bring that down to about 12, in between 12 and 15 decibels, to balance everything out. Alright, so now that I got that done, now that I have that done, we're going to go to the next track. I don't have anything on insert 2, but we'll go here, which I believe is snare. Alright, and it doesn't sound bad, but there are some frequencies you want to knock out. And you want to do this to every single instrument that you have on your track. You don't want to do too much EQing, but you want enough to where it's going to mix everything out and balance everything out. So we'll bring this up, and we'll look at the snare. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot going on right here, so we're going to bring it down, and not too much because it really affect the mid-range on the snare, and the mid and high mids are really where your snares kick in, and you don't want to take anything out of that. And what it's doing by taking out the low end on all these sounds is creating enough room for your kick and 808s to be there without having that muddiness that you hear. So next we'll go to the next track, which is going to be your hi-hats. So make sure you click on your hi-hat track, and we're going to go to EQ2 again. Make this bigger so y'all can see. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot going on in the lows or mids at all with the hi-hats. So I like to bring it probably around up in here somewhere. And what I'll actually do is I'll take this very end and I'll bend it to where it dips, because to the human ear you're never really going to hear these frequencies, so we're just going to take it out of the mix completely. And as you can tell, it seems like it's not hitting too hard, so what I'll do is I'll take this number 6 here, and I can go down here. Instead of you seeing it's just a really broad area that you're increasing, we can actually shrink that down by clicking this knob here and dragging it down, which will make the area a little smaller. And this is going to boost your hi-hat a bit. And now we go to what I believe is the most crucial part of your mix, which is going to be your kicks and your 808. This is what's going to drive your beat. A lot of people mistake that the melody is what drives everything, which it does have a lot to do with it, but in my eyes, I believe that it's always the kick and the 808 that's really pumping the song along. So let's start with the kick, and this is what it sounds like without any EQ on it. Now, as you can tell, it sounds a little bassy. I do like a little bass in the kicks, but you don't want it too much or it's going to muddy up your mix once you bring in your 808. So we're going to go ahead and add a parametric EQ2 to it. And let's see where it's sitting at. And it seems like most of the kick is kicking in at the 50 Hertz range. So we're going to bring this one down. And for this, I like to have a steep 8. So you're just going to go where this little dot is here at the top. And you're going to drag it all the way down to the left-hand corner. It's going to say steep 8. We'll listen to that. And then we're going to bring down this, the high end. Bring that down as a steep 8 too. You don't want to take too much out of here, but just enough to get this high end that's not associated with the kick. As you can tell, that made it a lot cleaner. It's brought out the kick. It's made it a little punchier, which you want with your 808s a lot of the time. So next, we go to the 808, and a lot of people dread this part because they're just like, oh, what is... they're afraid that they're going to take too much low end out of their 808s and it's not going to have that shaky 808 feel to it. But I'll show you what I do to kind of evens things out with me. So we go here. We're going to bring up parametric EQ2. Make this bigger. And let's just see where our 808 sits right now. And as you can tell, it sounds muddy, and I think that's what is making most of the track muddy. So let's go ahead and EQ this 808 up real quick. So what I like to do to start with is I'll go here and bring this down to a steep 8. And we're going to bring this all the way down here to the bottom left. And then I'll just kind of drag it out. You don't want to take too much out of this end, but I bring it about right here on most of my 808s. And like I said, there's not a right or wrong way to do this. It's just how you want your 808s to sound, how you want your track to sound. So it's just a little trial and error until you figure out the right mix on it. So that cleaned that 808 up a little bit. Took a lot of that low end off to where it balances everything out. It just sounds a whole lot better. Now we're going to also we're going to do a steep 8 on the high end, and we're going to knock out some of this high end that isn't really too associated with the 808. Alright, so now that that's just your basic mix, now I'm going to fine tune a few things, especially with the kick and the 808. I will actually solo these two together, or duo I should say, and let's just see what that sounds like without any other sounds going on. Now you can tell the kick and the 808 are clashing with each other, and it's making this muddiness that isn't very clear, and it's just not going to sound good on your track. So what I like to do is have the 808 duck whenever the kick kicks in. That way you get a clean kick on top of your 808, and it causes the 808 just to come in just a little bit late, but enough to where it's still on beat. So what I'll do is I'll go over here to slot 2, and you're going to add a fruity limiter. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. This is the basic way that I learned, and for me it's just the easiest, and I think it sounds really good. So we're going to add a fruity limiter. We're going to set that aside for a second, and you're going to go to your kick track. Alright, oh, forgot to undo that. Okay, so you're going to go to your kick track, and once you have your kick track selected, you're going to go over to where your 808 track is. You're going to find this arrow here. You're going to right click it, and you're click side chain to this track. Alright, so once you do that, you're going to click back on your 808 track. You're going to bring Fruity Limiter back up, and what you want to do is you're going to click this comp button, and then go over to where it says sidechain. You're going to right click in this box, and you're going to click your insert 6, which is going to be your kick track. The insert number is going to differ depending where you have your kick at in your mixer. So we click that, and now we have the sidechain in. And what I like to do is I'm going to bring the threshold down to about 23, 22, something like that, minus 22 decibels. And I'm going to take my knee and I'm going to kick it all the way up. And now you want to make sure that your attack's all the way down on this, and we're going to mess with this release knob here. Now if you listen to it, you can hear the kick. You can hear the 808 is ducking behind the kick, but you don't want too much because it's going to give this weird like delayed effect that just doesn't sound on time. It's going to sound a little off. So if you miss with this release knob, it's going to cause that 808 to duck closer in a shorter time to that kick. So let's mess with that real quick. Now you don't want to do too much because it'll start sounding distorted like this. So we're going to bring that up right in here somewhere. Now like I said, it's going to differ between which kick whatever kick you're using, whatever 808 you're using. It's just going to be a trial and error thing, and it's going to be whatever you think is going to sound best. So to me that sounds alright. So let's bring in all the rest of the tracks back together and see how our mix is sounding now. As you see, it sounds a lot cleaner. It's taking a lot of that muddiness out of there, and it's giving you a clean mix on your beat. Now what I like to do is I go in and I mess with my levels. If you notice, I haven't messed with anything on the master track. You don't want to do any mastering to your track until your mix is correct. Because once you start mastering the entire track, if you go back and you change your mix and levels on each instrument, it's gonna drastically change everything, and it can really just slop everything up. So make sure that your mix is where you want it before you start to master everything. So we're just gonna go through here and level everything out. We'll start with the 808. Actually, we'll start with the melody here. That's where it is naturally. I like to keep it between -12 and -15 decibels on the melody. Now, next thing is we're going to bring down this hi-hat just a bit. You want to be able to, hear your hi-hats clearly, but it should not be the loudest thing in your mix, and I think that's where a lot of people mess up. So let's mix this down a little bit. I like to bring this to around the -12, -15 decibel range. Alright, that sounds a lot better. Now we're going to skip the kick for a minute. I like to keep the kick right at 0 decibels usually. Every now and then I might bring it down just a bit if it sounds like it needs to be changed in the mix. So we're going to skip the kick for now, and we're going to go over to the 808. Now, as you can see, the 808 is sitting at around -2, -1 decibels, and it's just going to be way too loud. You really want to keep your 808s somewhere in the range between -7 and -4 decibels. So we're going to bring that down. As you can tell, that sounds a lot cleaner. Everything's sounding really good. Let's hop on over to... Actually, let's check out the snare real quick. Let's check out the snare. A lot of people will actually mix down their snare too much, and you don't want to do that, because whenever you have a rapper, an artist, or whatever on your beats, on your song, you want the kick to be up there with them, because if you mix down too much, then their vocals are just going to take over the kick, and it's just going to be really hard to hear. So you don't want to take too much out of it, but you also don't want it too loud. So let's just hear how it sounds. Sounds a little quiet, but I'm going to show you a little trick to bring everything out. Now that we've got everything on the mixer track balanced down to where we want it, we're going to head over to our master track. What I like to do, this isn't really necessary, but it's something I like to do. I'll add a Fruity Soft Clipper to the master. And what this is going to do is going to add just that little bit of distortion on the very end of all your sounds. And it's not enough to where it's going to sound crazy or anything. It's just going to give that little extra sauce, So let's see how it sounds now. Alright, so the next thing I want to do, and usually the final thing I do, is I'll go here and I will add a Fruity multi-band compressor. And once you do that, you want to right click this preset arrow, and you want to go down to mastering 2.4 decibels. Now what this is going to do is going to bring out your track up. It's going to up the gain a little bit on the master on your mix, and it's going to bring everything out more, and it's going to sound a little bit louder if everything is sounding quiet. So let's see how it sounds now. so that's the end of this mix. I'll go ahead and show you what it sounded like before, just so you have a nice before and after image of what everything sounded like. So I'm going to go through and just turn off all the effects on all the tracks, and this is what it sounded like before. And this is going to be after. Alright, so I hope that helped y'all out to learn just a little basic on your mixes. I hope that this can help your help your beats sound better. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit up my DMs. You can shoot me an email, whatever you like, and I'll do my best to try to help you out. So I just want to thank y'all for watching, and I hope y'all have a great day.